The massive holographic display stretched across the entire wall of the Galactic Council chamber, showing star maps that had guided civilizations for thousands of years. Bright blue dots marked safe trading routes where merchant ships traveled without fear. Green circles showed thriving colonies where millions of beings lived in peace and prosperity. Yellow zones indicated areas that needed caution but were still manageable for experienced pilots. Then there was the black mark. Sector 7 Gamma sat like a dark stain on the otherwise colorful map, a region so dangerous that even the bravest explorers refused to go near it. The black marking had been there for over 3,000 years, serving as a warning to every species in the galaxy. No trade routes passed through it. No colonies existed within 100 light-years of its borders. It was simply a dead zone that everyone agreed should stay dead. Ambassador Riley Thompson had seen plenty of dangerous places during his career with the Terran Coalition, but nothing quite like this. As the newest human representative to the Galactic Council, he was still learning about the vast network of alien civilizations that controlled this part of the galaxy. The briefing room buzzed with quiet conversations as delegates from dozens of different worlds discussed routine matters of trade and diplomacy. Riley couldn't stop staring at that black mark. Something about it bothered him, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what. The Altarian delegate sitting next to him noticed his interest. Veltar was a fascinating being, looking like a walking crystal sculpture that somehow managed to be both beautiful and slightly unsettling. The creature's body caught and reflected light in ways that created rainbow patterns across the nearby walls. "You seem curious about Sector 7 Gamma," Veltar said, his voice coming through the universal translation device with a musical quality that reminded Riley of wind chimes. Most new delegates ask about it eventually. Riley leaned back in his chair, trying to look casual. It's just unusual to see such a large area marked as completely off-limits. What exactly makes it so dangerous? Veltar's crystalline form shifted slightly, creating new patterns of light. Where do I begin? The entire region is a nightmare of gravitational anomalies. We've detected rogue black holes that appear and disappear without warning. Solar storms that can strip the hull off a starship from millions of miles away. Asteroid fields that move in patterns that make no scientific sense. The alien delegate paused, and Riley could sense something like sadness in his translated voice. But perhaps most terrifying of all are the reports from the few ships that managed to escape. They spoke of space itself seeming to twist and bend, of instruments going haywire, of crew members reporting visions and hallucinations. Riley raised an eyebrow. Visions? The human mind isn't the only one that can be affected by extreme stress and radiation, Veltar explained. Several species have reported similar psychological effects when exposed to whatever forces exist in that sector. It's as if the region actively fights against any attempt to explore or settle it. From across the chamber, another voice joined the conversation. Elder Counselor Meshare of the Kepler Union had been listening from her position at the head table. The ancient being looked like a cross between an octopus and a spider, with 6 eyes mounted on flexible stalks and skin that changed color based on her mood. Right now, she was showing deep purple stripes, which Riley had learned indicated concern. "Ambassador Thompson, your curiosity is understandable," Mesher said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had been making galactic policy for longer than most civilizations had existed. "But you must understand the history behind that marking. Over the past 3 millennia, 17 different exploration fleets have entered Sector 7 Gamma. None returned." Riley felt a chill run down his spine. "None at all." "Not a single ship," confirmed Veltar. The first few expeditions were large military fleets from the old Centauri Empire, back when they believed superior firepower could overcome any obstacle. They sent in 50 ships at a time. Nothing came back, not even a distress signal. Meshare's color shifted to darker shades of purple mixed with gray. Later attempts were smaller, more scientific in nature. "We sent unmanned probes, automated scouts, even artificial intelligence constructs that could theoretically survive conditions that would kill organic life. The probes would transmit data for a few hours or days, then simply stop. The automated scouts would send increasingly erratic reports before going silent. The AI constructs lasted longest, but even they eventually transmitted messages that made no sense before cutting off communication forever." Riley found himself leaning forward, genuinely intrigued despite the sobering nature of the conversation. "What kind of messages?" mathematical equations that violated known physics, star charts showing constellations that don't exist. In one case, an AI construct spent its final hour transmitting what appeared to be poetry written in a language that none of our linguistic experts could identify. The chamber had grown quieter as other delegates began listening to the conversation. Stories about Sector 7 Gamma were always popular, in the same way that ghost stories fascinated children. After losing so many ships and crews, the Council made a unanimous decision. Meshere continued. Some regions of space are simply incompatible with life as we understand it. We marked Sector 7 Gamma as forbidden, and agreed that no member species would attempt further exploration. Riley nodded slowly, trying to process everything he'd heard. So for 3,000 years, no one has even tried to go there. Oh, there have been attempts, Veltar said with what might have been a laugh. Pirates looking for a place to hide from authorities. Religious extremists believing they could find enlightenment in the void. Treasure hunters convinced that something valuable must be hidden in such a dangerous place. They all disappeared just like the official expeditions. Meshare's colors shifted again, this time to a pattern that Riley recognized as indicating finality. We have learned wisdom through loss, Ambassador. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. Some regions of space should remain unexplored. Riley sat back in his chair, appearing to accept the explanation, but inside his mind, questions were forming. 17 fleets over 3,000 years wasn't really systematic exploration. It was just random attempts spread out over millennia. And in his experience with humanity's expansion into space, they'd learned that what other species called impossible conditions often just required different approaches and better technology. He made a mental note to research Sector 7 Gamma more thoroughly when he returned to his quarters. Something about the whole situation didn't sit right with him, and Riley had learned to trust his instinct when it came to things that didn't make sense. 3 months had passed since Ambassador Riley Thompson's first briefing about the mysterious black mark on the galactic maps. Life at the Deep Space Monitoring Station Watchpoint 7 had settled into its usual routine of scanning empty space and filing reports that nobody ever read. The station floated silently at the edge of human territory. Its massive sensor arrays pointed toward the darkest corners of known space. Lieutenant Jake Morrison preferred the night shift. The skeleton crew meant fewer distractions, and he could focus on his work without constant chatter from his colleagues. Jake had always been fascinated by the unknown regions beyond human space, spending countless hours studying sensor data from frontier zones. Tonight felt no different as he settled into his chair with a cup of coffee, ready for another quiet 8-hour shift of monitoring the void. The first anomaly appeared at exactly 0247 hours. Jake almost missed it, distracted by a routine maintenance alert from the environmental systems. When he finally glanced at his primary display, he saw something that made him sit up straight in his chair. The sensors were picking up faint energy readings from Sector 7 Gamma, the forbidden zone that every species in the galaxy avoided like a plague. Jake frowned and tapped his console, assuming the readings were just background radiation or interference from a distant pulsar. But instead of disappearing, the signals became stronger and more defined. His instruments were detecting organized patterns in the energy signatures, the kind of structured emissions that only came from artificial sources. This can't be right, Jake muttered to himself, running a full diagnostic on his sensor array. Maybe the equipment was malfunctioning. These deep space stations were notorious for developing glitches after months of operation in the harsh environment of space. But the diagnostic came back clean, showing all systems operating within normal parameters. Jake recalibrated his sensors and ran the scan again. The readings remained exactly the same. Not only were there artificial energy signatures coming from the forbidden sector, but his instruments were also detecting what appeared to be radio transmissions. Structured communications following patterns that looked suspiciously like interstellar commerce traffic. He recalibrated a third time, his hands beginning to shake slightly as the implications sank in. If his readings were accurate, then someone had built a civilization in the most dangerous region of known space. Not just a small outpost or research station, but what appeared to be a thriving industrial complex with multiple energy sources and constant communication traffic. Jake stared at his displays, trying to make sense of data that shouldn't exist. The energy signatures showed massive power generation, the kind needed for large-scale mining operations or manufacturing facilities. The radio traffic included multiple frequencies and transmission patterns that suggested an organized society with established trade routes and regular cargo schedules. His first instinct was to call his supervisor, but Station Commander Wilson was notorious for his bad temper when woken up during his sleep cycle. Jake decided to gather more data first, spending the next 2 hours running every scan his equipment was capable of performing. Each new reading confirmed his initial findings and added even more impossible details. The Forbidden Sector wasn't just occupied, it was bustling with activity. Jake's instruments detected what appeared to be dozens of artificial structures, energy collectors that seemed to be harvesting power from dangerous stellar phenomena, and communication networks that connected multiple installations across the entire region. Whoever lived there had not only survived in conditions that had destroyed 17 exploration fleets, but they had built something that rivaled the industrial output of major galactic civilizations. When Captain Lisa Hayes arrived for her morning briefing at 0600 hours, she found Jake still at his station, surrounded by printouts and data displays. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, and his uniform was wrinkled from leaning over his console all night. "Morrison, you look like you've seen a ghost," Lisa said, setting down her own coffee and studying the unusual scene. "What's got you so worked up?" Jake looked up at his captain with wide eyes. "I think I found something that's going to change everything we thought we knew about Sector 7 Gamma." Lisa raised an eyebrow. The Forbidden Sector was a popular topic of speculation among deep space personnel, but nobody took it seriously. It was just an empty region of space marked dangerous by overcautious aliens who probably hadn't bothered to properly explore it. "Show me what you've got," she said, pulling up a chair next to Jake's workstation. For the next 30 minutes, Jake walked his captain through every reading, every energy signature, and every piece of data he had collected. Lisa's expression grew more serious with each display, her casual morning demeanor replaced by the focused attention of an experienced military officer recognizing a potentially historic discovery. "Captain, either our equipment is completely malfunctioning in ways that somehow create perfectly organized false data, or someone has built a major civilization in the Black Mark," Jake reported, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was suggesting. Lisa studied the readings carefully, her years of experience helping her interpret the complex data. The energy signatures were definitely artificial, showing the kind of controlled power generation that only came from advanced technology. The radio transmissions followed recognizable patterns that matched standard interstellar commerce protocols, suggesting whoever was out there developed sophisticated communication networks. Most intriguing of all were the mining signatures. Jake's sensors had detected industrial-scale extraction operations that appeared to be harvesting resources from asteroids, gas giants, and even the dangerous stellar phenomena that made the region so hazardous. Whoever lived in Sector 7 Gamma hadn't just survived the hostile conditions. They had turned those very dangers into sources of wealth and power. "Jake, I want you to compile everything you found into a complete report," Lisa said, her voice taking on the formal tone she used for serious military business. "Include all raw data, analysis, and your personal observations, and I want you to run continuous monitoring on these signals for the next 24 hours. She paused, considering the implications of what they had discovered. "Also, I want you to keep this information strictly classified until we understand what we're dealing with. Don't discuss it with anyone else on the station, don't send any messages to friends or family, and don't even mention it in your personal logs." Jake nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "What happens next, Captain?" Lisa was already reaching for her secure communication console. "Next, I contact Admiral Brooks and let her know that everything the Galactic Council told us about the Forbidden Sector might be completely wrong." 2 weeks after Admiral Brooks received the impossible report from Watchpoint 7, the diplomatic vessel Pioneer was making its way through hyperspace toward a destination that shouldn't exist. Captain Mike Davis had commanded exploration missions to dozens of worlds, but nothing in his 20-year career had prepared him for what they might find in Sector 7 Gamma. The ship's crew was handpicked for this historic mission. Ambassador Riley Thompson sat in the observation deck, reviewing everything the Galactic Council had told him about the Forbidden Sector, comparing those warnings against the detailed sensor data that Jake Morrison had collected. Commander Beth Anderson ran the science station with her usual precision, her instruments calibrated to detect everything from basic life signs to advanced industrial processes. As they dropped out of hyperspace at the sector's edge, the first thing that struck everyone was how normal space looked. No twisted reality, no gravitational storms, no mysterious phenomena that drove crews insane. Just regular stars scattered across the cosmic backdrop, with asteroid fields and gas giants distributed in typical patterns throughout the region. Initial scans show stable conditions, Commander Anderson reported from her station. No immediate threats, no gravitational anomalies. Whatever scared off those 17 exploration fleets, we're not seeing it yet. Captain Davis nodded, though he remained cautious. Take us in slowly. Full sensor sweeps every 1,000 kilometers. I want to know about anything unusual long before we get close to it. As the Pioneer pushed deeper into the Forbidden Sector, the crew began to see signs of artificial construction. At first, it was just small structures attached to asteroids, looking almost like natural formations unless you knew what to look for. But as they traveled further, the signs of habitation became impossible to ignore. Space stations clung to asteroid surfaces like metallic barnacles, their whole design sleek and efficient but clearly built for functionality rather than appearance. Mining operations had carved geometric patterns into entire planetoids, turning chaotic rock formations into organized industrial sites. Massive cargo haulers moved between installations, following established shipping routes through what the galaxy considered uninhabitable space. "This is incredible," Ambassador Thompson breathed, pressing his face against the observation window. "Whoever lives here has turned the entire region into an industrial complex. Look at those energy collectors on that asteroid. They are harvesting power from solar radiation at levels that would cook most species." But the most amazing sight was still ahead of them. As the Pioneer rounded a gas giant, they came face to face with something that defied every piece of conventional wisdom about space colonization. A massive orbital city surrounded what appeared to be an unstable pulsar, its dangerous energy output being captured by an intricate network of collectors and converted into usable power. The city itself was a masterpiece of engineering, with rotating habitat rings providing artificial gravity for what must have been millions of inhabitants. Docking bays bustled with traffic as ships came and went on regular schedules. Industrial platforms processed raw materials and manufactured goods that were then shipped throughout the region. "My readings show the city has been here for at least 2 centuries, Commander Anderson reported, her voice filled with amazement. The construction techniques, the materials used, even the architectural style. Whoever built this has been developing their technology for generations." Captain Davis studied the tactical display, noting the defensive positions and patrol routes that protected the massive installation. "I'm seeing atmospheric processors, terraforming equipment, and energy systems that make our best technology look like stone tools. These people aren't just surviving in conditions that killed 17 exploration fleets. They are thriving here." The first ship to approach them was sleek but clearly utilitarian, designed for the harsh radiation environment near the pulsar. Its hull showed the wear patterns of regular use, and its weapon systems were sophisticated but not aggressive in their positioning. This was a patrol vessel from a civilization that had learned to balance caution with confidence. When the communication channel opened, Riley heard something that made his heart skip a beat. "Unknown vessel. This is Commander Tom Parker, the Aurora Colony Defense Force. State your business in human space." The bridge of the Pioneer fell completely silent. Riley stared at the communication console, certain he had misheard. Commander Anderson looked up from her sensor readings with an expression of shock. Captain Davis simply sat in his command chair, trying to process what he had just heard. Did he just say human? Riley asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The voice came through the speakers again, and this time there was clear amusement in the tone. "I take it you folks are from the core worlds. Been a while since we've had visitors from that part of the galaxy. Welcome to the neighborhood, cousins." Riley grabbed the communication microphone with trembling hands. "Commander Parker, this is Ambassador Riley Thompson of the Terran Coalition. Are you saying that humans built all of this?" A laugh came through the speakers, warm and genuinely friendly. "Built it, live in it, and been improving it for the past 300 years. Though I have to ask, what took you so long to find us? We've been monitoring Council communications for decades, wondering when someone would finally get curious about the big black mark on their star charts." Captain Davis leaned forward in his chair. "Commander, we were told this sector was uninhabitable. The Galactic Council has it marked as forbidden territory after losing 17 exploration fleets. "Oh, those," Parker replied casually. "Yeah, we found the wreckage of a few of them over the years. Turns out most alien species aren't very good at adapting the technology for high radiation environments. They kept trying to fight against the conditions instead of working with them." Commander Anderson was frantically scanning the approaching ship, her instruments revealing technology that was definitely human in origin but far more advanced than anything in use by the Terran Coalition. "Ambassador, their ship is using power systems I've never seen before. Their hull materials are designed to actually absorb and redirect radiation rather than just resist it." Riley felt a mixture of pride and bewilderment washing over him. Humans had not only survived in the galaxy's most feared region, they had built a thriving civilization that surpassed anything the core world had achieved. "Commander Parker, we have a lot of questions." "I bet you do," came the reply, "and we've got plenty of answers. But first, let me get you folks docked at Haven Point. My commander is going to want to meet the people who finally worked up the courage to visit the scary part of the galaxy. Fair warning, though, you might want to upgrade your radiation shielding before you get too close to our city. We've gotten used to living with a lot more cosmic energy than most humans are comfortable with." Walking through Haven Point was like stepping into a future that nobody had imagined possible. The station's corridors hummed with energy that would have been lethal to most species, but the humans living there moved through it as casually as people back on Earth walked through sunlight. Commander Tom Parker led the diplomatic team through sections of the facility that showcased engineering solutions Riley had never dreamed of. The central hub of Haven Point sat directly in the path of the pulsar's most intense radiation beams. Instead of trying to block or deflect this deadly energy, the humans had built their entire civilization around capturing and using it. Massive collector arrays lined the station's outer hull, converting radiation that would instantly kill most alien life forms into clean, unlimited power. The council species avoid pulsars because of the radiation, Parker explained as they walked past a viewing window that offered a spectacular view of the spinning neutron star. "They see death. We see the galaxy's most efficient power source. These energy readings would cook most alien ships in seconds, but we've been adapting our technology to work with radiation for over 2 centuries. Riley pressed his face against the reinforced window, watching streams of charged particles dance around the station's magnetic shields. "How did you even begin to develop technology like this? The radiation levels must have killed thousands of people during the early experiments." Parker's expression grew more serious. "It wasn't easy, I won't lie about that. The first generation of colonists who came here lost a lot of good people learning how to survive. But they kept pushing forward because they believed this place had potential that nobody else could see. Every setback taught them something new about working with extreme conditions instead of just trying to survive them." As they moved deeper into the station, Riley began to understand the elegant solutions that these humans had developed. Where other species saw deadly asteroid fields that could crush ships and kill crews, the humans had created perfect manufacturing centers with unlimited raw materials floating freely in space. Massive industrial platforms moved through the asteroid belts like mechanical whales, harvesting metals and rare elements that were scattered throughout the region. Those asteroids out there contain more platinum and rare earth elements than exist in the entire core world combined, Parker said, pointing to the mining operations visible through another viewing port. "The radiation that scared everyone else away actually helps us process the materials. We can refine metals using stellar energy at temperatures and pressures that will be impossible to achieve with conventional technology." The tour continued to the gravitational processing stations, where the humans had learned to harness the crushing gravity of nearby planets for industrial processes that were impossible in standard environments. Instead of fighting against gravitational forces that would flatten conventional structures, they had built specialized facilities that used those same forces to create materials with properties that defied normal physics. Commander Beth Anderson was taking readings throughout the tour, her instruments struggling to process the advanced technology surrounding them. "Ambassador, their metallurgy alone is centuries ahead of anything we have in the core worlds. They are creating alloys that shouldn't be possible under normal conditions." Riley found himself constantly amazed by the human ingenuity on display. Every challenge that had driven other species away from the sector had been turned into an advantage. The unpredictable gravitational fields were used for zero-point energy extraction. The dangerous stellar phenomena-powered manufacturing processes that created materials stronger and lighter than anything produced by galactic civilization. Why didn't you ever contact the Galactic Council? Riley finally asked as they entered the station's command center. You could have shared this technology, helped other species adapt to dangerous environments. Parker's smile became slightly grim as he gestured toward a bank of monitoring equipment. Ambassador, we've been listening to Council communication for generations. We know exactly how they operate, and frankly, we like being left alone. He activated a holographic display showing the expansion patterns of various Council species over the past millennium. Look at this data. Every time the Council encounters a region that requires adaptation or innovation, they mark it as forbidden and move on to easier targets. They become so risk-averse that they've stopped exploring anything that might challenge them. Commander Diana Walsh joined them from the engineering section, her uniform showing the practical modifications that all the station personnel wore to deal with a high-radiation environment. Plus, we've seen what happens to species that join the Council. They start following safety protocols and risk assessments that would have prevented everything you see here from ever being built. She gestured toward the massive energy collectors visible through the command center's windows. The Council would have declared this station impossible to build and too dangerous to operate. They would have insisted on safety margins that would have made it completely ineffective. Their caution becomes a limitation that prevents real innovation. Riley was beginning to understand that the humans of Sector 7 Gamma had evolved beyond the limitations that define galactic civilization. They hadn't just adapted to dangerous conditions. They had transformed those dangers into the foundation of a society that surpassed anything the Council species had achieved. We watched the Council expand for centuries, Walsh continued, always taking the safe route, always choosing the easy path. They build impressive civilizations on garden worlds with perfect conditions, but they never push the boundaries of what's possible. Parker nodded in agreement. When we came to this sector, we didn't have the luxury of perfect conditions. We had to innovate or die. Every problem forced us to find solutions that other species never needed to develop. The result is technology and capabilities that the Council can't match because they never faced the challenges that created them. The tour concluded in the observation deck where Riley had started, but now he saw Haven Point with completely different eyes. This wasn't just a space station. It was proof that human determination and ingenuity could transform the impossible into the inevitable. The black mark on the galactic charts hadn't been a warning. It had been an opportunity that only humans had been bold enough to seize. As Riley prepared to return to the Pioneer, he realized that the discovery of the Sector 7 Gamma colonies would force the entire galaxy to reconsider what they thought they knew about the limits of civilization and the true potential of human innovation. The news of human civilization thriving in Sector 7 Gamma spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. Within hours of Ambassador Riley Thompson's initial report, emergency communication networks were buzzing with frantic messages between worlds. Council delegates who had spent centuries avoiding the forbidden sector suddenly found themselves trying to understand how an entire species had not only survived there, but built something that rivaled the greatest achievements of galactic civilization. Emergency sessions were called on the Council homeworld, with representatives from dozens of species gathering to discuss the implications of this impossible discovery. Elder Councilor Mejare found herself fielding questions that had no easy answers. How had the humans accomplished what 17 exploration fleets had failed to do? What other assumptions about dangerous regions of space might be completely wrong? Most unsettling of all, what did this say about the Council's approach to exploration and expansion? The crystalline Altarian delegate Veltar was among the most vocal in demanding answers. For 3 millennia, we have marked that sector as forbidden, he said, his translated voice carrying harmonics that indicated deep concern. Every piece of data we collected suggested that region was incompatible with organized life. How could an entire civilization exist there without us detecting it? The answer came from the Council's own monitoring stations, which had been reviewing their long-term sensor data in light of the human discovery. The truth was embarrassing for the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. They had been detecting signs of the human colonies for decades, but their automated systems had been programmed to dismiss any readings from forbidden sectors as equipment malfunctions or natural phenomena. Admiral Janet Brooks arrived at Haven Point 3 days later with a full diplomatic envoy, accompanied by representatives from the major Council species. The fleet that approached the orbital city was impressive by galactic standards, but seemed almost primitive compared to the elegant technology that the Sector 7 Gamma humans had developed. The initial meeting took place in Haven Point's main conference center, a facility that had been hastily modified to accommodate the various atmospheric requirements of the alien delegates. The council representatives were visibly uncomfortable with the radiation levels that the humans considered normal, requiring special protective suits and life support equipment just to attend the meeting. Admiral Brooks opened the discussions with what she considered a generous offer. "Commander Parker, on behalf of the Terran Coalition and our allies in the Galactic Council, we are prepared to begin formal integration proceedings. We can provide immediate access to established trade routes, diplomatic protection, and assistance in relocating your population to safer regions of space." The response was not what she expected. "We appreciate the offer, Admiral," Commander Parker replied, his tone polite but firm. "But we're not interested in joining the Council. However, we're definitely willing to establish trade relations and share some of our technologies with species that might find them useful." The silence that followed was profound. Elder Counselor Meshere's 6 eyes focused intently on Parker, her color patterns shifting through shades that indicated confusion and concern. "Commander, surely you understand the benefits that Council membership would provide. Protection from hostile forces, access to established colonies, technological exchange with advanced civilizations." Commander Diana Walsh leaned forward in her chair, her expression showing the kind of patient amusement that teachers display when explaining simple concepts to confused students. "Counselor, we've been monitoring Council communications for generations. We know exactly what membership entails, and we've seen what happens to species that join your organization." She gestured toward a holographic display that showed the expansion patterns of various Council civilizations. Every member species follows the same pattern. They become increasingly cautious, risk-averse, and dependent on established safety protocols. They stop pushing boundaries and start accepting limitations that we've proven are completely artificial. Elder Counselor Meshere's colors shifted to deeper purples, indicating growing confusion. "But surely you wish to expand into safer regions of space? We can offer you worlds with stable stars, predictable weather patterns, abundant resources that don't require the dangerous extraction methods you've developed here." The laughter that erupted from Commander Walsh was genuine and infectious, causing several of the human personnel in the room to smile despite the formal nature of the diplomatic meeting. "Respectfully, Counselor, your safe worlds are boring. We've already identified 3 other black marks on your charts that look promising for colonization." The delegates exchanged worried glances. If humans were actively seeking out the regions that other species consider forbidden, the implications of galactic exploration could be enormous. How many other impossible regions might actually be suitable for human habitation? Captain Mike Davis, who had been quietly observing the proceedings, stepped forward with a suggestion that surprised everyone present. "What if we kept the black marks on your maps exactly where they are, but added a simple footnote? Something like forbidden to Council species, human territory." Commander Parker's grin was immediate and enthusiastic. "I like it. Captain. Keeps the tourists away while letting everyone know we're here if they need something impossible accomplished." The negotiations continued for several more hours, but the basic framework was established quickly. The humans of Sector 7 Gamma would remain independent, maintaining their own government and expansion plans. They would establish trade relationships with Council species on their own terms, sharing selected technologies while keeping their most advanced innovations for their own use. Most importantly, they would serve as a galaxy's specialist in impossible environments, taking on colonization and exploration projects in regions that other species considered too dangerous to attempt. Admiral Brooks found herself both impressed and slightly unnerved by the confidence these humans displayed. They spoke about colonizing unstable star systems and harvesting resources from black hole accretion disks as casually as Council species discussed mining asteroids in stable solar systems. As the diplomatic meetings concluded, Ambassador Riley Thompson realized that humanity had found its unique niche in the galactic community. While other species expanded cautiously into safe territory, carefully avoiding anything that might challenge their established technologies and social structures, humans thrived in the places that others feared to explore. The black marks on the galactic charts weren't warnings anymore. They were promises of human ingenuity turning the impossible into home. Admiral Brooks had the final word as the Council delegation prepared to depart Haven Point. Standing in the observation deck, watching the impossible city orbit its dangerous pulsar, she spoke to the assembled human commanders with genuine respect in her voice. Gentlemen and ladies, I think we just redefined what it means to be human in this galaxy. The Council species will continue building their civilizations on garden worlds with perfect conditions. But when they encounter something that seems impossible, when they find challenges that their safety protocols won't let them face, they'll know exactly who to call. The revelation had changed everything, not just for humanity, but for the entire galactic community's understanding of what was possible in the vast, dangerous, and ultimately conquerable universe.